The Indian Ministry of Defence announced in a press release dated March 7, 2025, that it has signed a contract with Rosoboron Export of the Russian Federation worth $248 million for the procurement of 1,000 HP engines for T-72 tanks. The engines are to be supplied in fully formed, completely knocked down, and semi-knocked down conditions. The press release didn't give the total number of engines to be procured or a breakdown of the form in which they are to be delivered. The Indian Army reportedly has a fleet of 2,400 T-72 tanks, 1,000 of which are planned to be upgraded. The T-72 is a family of Soviet main battle tanks that entered production in 1973. The T-72 was a development based on the T-64 using thought and design of the previous Object 167M. About 25,000 T-72 tanks have been built, and refurbishment has enabled many to remain in service for decades. It has been widely exported and has seen service in 40 countries and used in numerous conflicts. The Russian T-90 introduced in 1992 and the Chinese Type 99 are further developments of the T-72. Production and development of various modernized T-72 models continues today. Indian Army was looking for new tanks in 80s evaluated but rejected British Centurion tanks due to firepower and mobility characteristics limitations. By early 1980, the Army chose the 43-ton AMX-40 MBT, which was then in its design stage. Indian Army then turned to his trusted friend USSR for supply of MBTs. Russia offered T-72 tanks with updated engines and more than 2,400 were inducted for next decade. The deal also includes transfer of technology, TOT, from M.S.RO to M.S. Armored Vehicles Nigam Limited, Heavy Vehicle Factory, Avadi, Chennai, for integration and subsequent licensed production of engines under TOT to boost the Make in India initiative in defense sector. The T-72 tank, named Ajaya in the Indian Army, was introduced in India in the 1970s. It is currently fitted with a 780 HP engine. The press release didn't specify the model of the new engine, but it's likely that the engine being acquired is a variant of the V92S2, a 1,000 horsepower engine developed by Russia that powers T-90S tanks and modernized T-72 variants. This engine is known for its reliability and performance, making it a suitable choice for the T-72 upgrade program. Weighing just 41 tons, the T-72 is extremely lightweight. It was developed by the Soviet Union in the 1970s. The decision to keep it light was well thought out, keeping in mind the roads and bridges of Warsaw Pact countries. These would allow columns of T-72 tanks to travel safely but would not take the weight of NATO tanks in formation. The NATO tanks would be forced to pass one at a time, slowing their progress. However, despite its lightweight, the T-72 is relatively underpowered, with a 780 horsepower engine. At 19 horsepower/ton, the T-72's power-to-weight ratio compares unfavorably with the 21.5 horsepower/ton power-to-weight ratio of the heavier, 46.5 tons, T-90 tank. The T-72's V46-6 engine is a supercharged version of the basic 500 horsepower, 370 kilowatts, V12 diesel engine originally designed for the World War II-era T-34. In September 2018, the Defense Acquisition Committee (DAC) accorded approval of necessity for the procurement of 1,000 engines of 1,000 bhp for fitment in the Army's T-72 tanks under the Buy and Make category at an approximate cost of over 2,300 crore rupees. Upgrading of T-72 also reflects India's failure to produce Arjun tank locally. India is working on Arjun project since 1983. The first prototype was delivered in 1989. The prototype tank resembled the Leo 2A4 main battle tank of Germany. The cost of the Arjun program increased significantly from the 1974 estimate of 15.50 crore rupees, equivalent to 464 crore rupees or 53.1 million United States dollars in 2023, to a developmental cost of 307.48 crore rupees, equivalent to 18 billion rupees or 209.7 million United States dollars in 2023, in 1995. One of the heaviest tank in the world, Arjun, weight was 58.5 tons, 57.6 long tons, 64.5 short tons, which failed to perform at Indian rough terrain. Indian Army T-72 weighed only 41 tons. New design of Arjun Mk1A weight is 68 tons, 67 long tons, 75 short tons, and due to much bigger size and weight, Indian Army rejected both models of Arjun. Only 141 delivered since 2001 to Indian Army. Indian Army acquired T-90 in 2001. India purchased 310 T-90S tanks from Russia, of which 124 were delivered complete, 42 featured the early cast turrets seen on Russian tanks, and 186 were to be assembled from kits delivered in various stages of completion, with an emphasis on shifting production to domestic means. The Indian Army selected T-90 due to two reasons. Firstly, T-90 is an advanced version of T-72 tanks which is already in use of Indian Army. Secondly, Indian Army rejected Arjun tanks and have no other option. The T-72 has a nuclear, biological, and chemical, NBC, protection system. The inside of both hull and turret is lined with a synthetic fabric made of boron compound, meant to reduce the penetrating radiation from neutron bomb explosions. The crew is supplied clean air via an air filter system. A slight overpressure prevents entry of contamination via bearings and joints. Use of an autoloader for the main gun allows for more efficient forced smoke removal compared to traditional manually loaded tank guns, so NBC isolation of the fighting compartment can, in theory, be maintained indefinitely. The Russian Federation had over 10,000 T-72 tanks in use, including around 2,000 in active service and 8,000 in reserve, mostly T-72Bs. The T-72 has been used by the Russian Army in the fighting during the First and Second Chechen Wars, the Russo-Georgian War, and the Russo-Ukrainian War.